Hello, you lovely lot, and welcome to Marketing in the Madness. Today, I interviewed the fantastic Natalie Furness.
I don't think enough companies actually have someone who owns customer data as a responsibility. Businesses who looked at their developer docs were significantly more likely to convert than those who didn't.
People have been moving jobs quicker than ever. Maybe they're on the fastest life cycle that they've ever been on. So making sure that our data is up to date and that we've got the right contact details for prospects is ever present.
My recommendation is really focusing on creating content and value that makes people want to share their information with you. The struggle that I see a lot of businesses going through, they almost have too much data. I know you've got these ideal profiles, but think, if I had 5 points, what would those 5 points be?
Hello, you lovely lot, and welcome to Marketing in the Madness. Now, this may not be the first episode, but that was actually my first time saying welcome to Marketing in the Madness, because some of my lovely, loyal listeners will already know me from hosting another podcast, Word on the Street. And today was actually the first time I recorded for the new podcast, which is much more marketing focused. I mean, we always talk about marketing, but much more marketing focused. And of course, I don't think there could be any better an episode than this one, although it may not be launched first, that really kind of talks about the madness of marketing and some of the complexities that are present in day-to-day marketing for marketeers. So if you are new to this podcast, which you may well be because, it is a new podcast, hello, welcome. My name is Katie Street. I am the founder of a marketing agency called Street Agency. We really focus on marketing-led sales solutions, I guess, is the kind of briefest way to put it, but specifically in the B2B space. I've grown up in marketing. I have worked for really big drinks brands, FMCG brands, for advertising businesses like FHM back in the day at EMAP, and then probably for the last 12 to 13 years worked in agencies, leading marketing for agencies, talking to some of the biggest brands in the world. So I feel I know a fair bit about growing an agency, growing a business, and how to market businesses, because I have been on the receiving end of briefs. I have been the writer of briefs, and I have grown my own business by taking a marketing-led approach. So if you're new to this podcast, I hope that you are going to enjoy some of the tactics that I share. We've got some amazing guests coming up, but today I am not going to let you down. So today I interviewed the fantastic Natalie Furness. Natalie Furness runs a business that really helps businesses get their RevOps sorted. And RevOps isn't necessarily a term that I come across all the time. It is a newer term out there, but really it's about getting your data sorted. It's about getting your CRM sorted. It's about getting all of your revenue operations sorted so that you can run a business based on data that is really going to power your growth. Now, of course, because this is a podcast all about marketing, me and Natalie focus on the things that you need to do in order to get your data aligned to help you attract, convert more new business, sales, however you refer to it. So without further ado, we're really quick fire in today's podcast. In fact, actually, I feel like Natalie makes me sound a bit silly because she knows so much more about this than I do. And I'm actually going to recruit her for her skills to get street agencies and some of our clients' HubSpot accounts up to scratch. Let's go and meet the amazing Natalie Furness. Hello, Natalie, and thank you so much for joining me today. This feels really timely. So I'm going to let Natalie introduce herself in a second, but and in fact, I'm going to also get her to explain exactly what RevOps is, because it may not be a term that all of you think of straight away or know straight away. So we'll talk about that a bit. But it's stuff that we're actually working on at Street for us and for our clients today. So I feel like I am going to take so much away from this in terms of how to structure data, how to get our CRM healthier, working better, delivering better results for our campaigns, for our marketing. So thank you, Natalie, for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me, Katie. And, it's always great in like a podcast conversation to actually be able to speak to somebody who's really looking for the answers that I can give. And I'm hoping that everybody who's listening today, I'll be able to provide truly actionable insights, because that's what we're here to do today. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Natalie Furness. I am the CEO and founder of RevOps Automated. We are a consultancy and technical implementation specialist agency that really focuses on aligning people, processes, and data systems. And that effectively is what revenue operations is across marketing, sales, customer success, your finance team, your legal team, bringing all that data together in one place so you can have true revenue insights.
Love that. What a great first of all, great way to explain it, because I definitely would not have explained it as well. But it's having that one true vision of everything that's going on within your business. And I think so many of us, we get caught up in the day to day. And I am a huge believer in practicing what I preach at Street, and all of the insights that I know you're going to be able to give me today are not just going to help me, they're going to help all of our clients. And I hope I'm going to ask the questions that all of our lovely listeners want to know about. So I'm going to get straight in, Natalie, today. I'm going to dive straight into the interesting questions. So first of all, where do you get started? So there'll be a mixture of people listening today, some that are already on this journey, but let's address those that maybe haven't started this journey yet, when they're looking to actually get some systems in place. And it is mind-boggling, the businesses that we still talk to today, quite large businesses that are still using spreadsheets. Where do they start when they're looking to get all of this data organized?
Great question, Katie. And in answer, it depends. And that's always the answer to everything, is it depends. And I'd say the main thing it depends on is the size and stage of your business. When you're in this early startup phase, you want to be focusing on lots of high speed experimentation. So you need your processes and systems set up to do that. And a lot of people turn around and say, I don't need revenue operations yet because I'm at the startup phase. Well, my response to that is, you don't need full-blown revenue operations, but you do need to make sure you have the markers in place to understand where your customers are in the lifecycle stage of buying, or whether they're a customer or whether they're referring other people. And you need to know if your experiments are working, because otherwise you're doing tons of experimentation. You'll get to your sort of Series A funding raise and be like, what works? I don't know. Because we've been focused on experimenting rather than generating insights we can use for raising. So actually, if you're at that stage of the journey, the most important things to sort of focus on are looking at the key stages in your customer journey, looking at ways of tracking those, and it could be using a CRM really is the best way to do that. Put those trackers in, make sure you're time stamping the time between each of those stages for each customer. Then you'll be able to look at things like acceleration through pipeline. And then you'll be able to look back, if you've tracked all the touch points, at which touch points they touched, the ones that have moved the fastest. That's where you're going to get your insights to say, well, this customer or these groups of customers actually became customers much faster. And if we look at the history of touch points with our businesses, we can see where. So let's scale those things up so we can generate more revenue. So the key things for at the beginning is acceleration through stages and making sure you have those stages defined. So if you're moving into the slightly bigger companies, you would be surprised, even those companies that have CRMs, how ill-defined their life cycle stages are. And actually, the challenge in larger companies is actually greater than startups, because you actually have these historic changes of the stages in customer journey, which have become misaligned. Marketing think differently, sales think differently, customer service think differently. They've never really been asked to sort of come together and find this one true North Star. So if you are in a larger company, your first step is bringing all your stakeholders together and deciding what's the metrics that matter, and then working backwards from there to actually build them into all of your processes and systems.
Yeah, it's honestly one of the biggest conversations I will often have with clients is they will say, oh yeah, we've been doing it all in a spreadsheet. I'm like, yes, but how do you understand, that data, exactly like you said, Natalie, is so important. It feeds your business growth in the hugest way, because how can you make sensible decisions about where to focus your business if you can't truly see what's been happening, if you can't track it, if you can't, understand, like you say, the right life cycle stages in the sales cycle, if you can't understand where prospects have been coming in from, what kind of marketing content or what kind of marketing tactics that you've been using that have brought those leads into you. If you haven't got any of that, or you're just doing it in a spreadsheet, there's a lot of legwork that goes into, turning that into useful data and reporting. And actually, you just can't report in the right way on a spreadsheet. Like, the fact is, it's very, very clear. And there's so many great options if you're getting started with this. I wonder if that's a good next question. So I can talk about some that I know of and use, or have used, and you'll probably have eyes on a lot more. So of course, we both work with HubSpot. We're both, I believe, certified HubSpot partners. So HubSpot is a great one, and it is great if you do really want that kind of all-encompassing view. And I'm going to come at this from a sales and marketing point of view, Natalie. You're going to probably be able to spread wings a lot further than that. And there's lots of other things that these platforms can integrate with. But from a life cycle stage and a sales stage, I feel like these kind of more sales platforms are helpful. I've also got a huge amount of experience with Pipedrive. We also use Capsule. We've used, I'm trying to think of some of the others now. I'm going to stop there and hand over to you, because I can't actually think of any more that we've used recently. But any other platforms that you highly recommend or that you use with clients?
Yeah, I suppose the first thing I want to say before going into recommending any platform is kind of getting people to think a little bit about understanding what platform is going to be right for them as well. So the key thing that we find is often businesses become a little bit tool focused, when actually what we should focus on is the processes first. So understand the processes that you want to run and the processes that you want to automate. If you're a business that's focused more on a go-to-market motion, so the way that you are getting customers is more marketing-led, you might want a slightly different system than if your go-to-market motion is sales-led, or if your go-to-market motion is what we call product-led growth. And for those of you that don't know what product-led growth is sort of something that came from like the growth of Slack. So Slack focused on adding value, high value to its users, and then upselling in platform. So having that free tier and upselling. And that's a very different process than a go-to-market marketing or a go-to-market sales. So before considering the tools that are best for you, first consider your go-to-market motion, marketing-led, sales-led, or product-led growth. Now, most businesses have a combination of these three. Now, if you have a combination of these three and really want to keep all that data in one place, flowing all the way through seamlessly, my recommendation would be HubSpot, because HubSpot has a marketing hub, a sales hub, a customer service hub. It also now has the new operations hub, which means that you can build custom coded workflows and create data sets and formulas on all your custom reporting. And it also has amazing open APIs, which means we can integrate the back end of products straight back into HubSpot, or use a middleware, which we might talk a little bit more when we're talking about data hygiene, Katie, to actually bring that sort of create a distributed source of truth. So you have a source of truth in your product and the same source of truth in HubSpot, which gives all your teams the right information at the right time to do what they need to do. Now, if you're more focused, say, for example, purely on a marketing or purely on a sales or purely on a product, you might want to look at some possible alternatives for those single go-to-market motions. Of course, Katie, you've already mentioned things like Pipedrive. There's, of course, Salesforce. There's Zoho. There's lots of other platforms out there. And while firstly and foremost, I'm a HubSpot advocate because I believe it's a truly scalable solution across all those different areas, it might be that you need to speak to your internal team. So usability and functionality should be the two key things you think of. What are our processes, and does the system have the functionality? And is it easy to use? That's the real key thing when you're evaluating any software. Is it going to be easy for my teams to use? And I think, let's face it, Katie, that's why we fall in love with HubSpot, because it's just easy to use. As a marketer or sales professional, you can achieve what would take you days on other platforms in about half an hour. So That's why I focus on that one.
the reporting and everything on HubSpot is, I mean, look, it, as any platform will have, it has its challenges, but having worked with, you know, other larger scale platforms like SharePoint and Microsoft Dynamics, which need a huge amount of bespoke coding, pretty much HubSpot is there. It's just ready for you to implement and ready to get you moving. So I think, again, if you are looking to implement something quickly, HubSpot is a great platform.
Yeah. And I would add on top of that, Katie, that even if you are a larger organization and have something that is already kind of like built into your team and they're really in love with it, so whether that be Oracle, Microsoft Dynamics, or Salesforce, just remember that HubSpot has native integrations to both Microsoft Dynamics and Salesforce. And we know if you want to move the marketing, you know, HubSpot is the place to be. So you can always integrate those two platforms seamlessly without losing your data integrity.
I love that. And also, Natalie, thank you for keeping me in check when I was like, oh, let's talk about tools. No, let's talk about why you need those tools first so that you can develop the right strategy to pick the right tools. So yes, thank you for keeping me in check, because I'm definitely one of those people that's always going to look for the solution. Sometimes, you know, quite intuitively, it often does happen in the right way, but you really, you know, when you're looking at something of this scale, you really need to interrogate what the business needs, why it needs it. And there are so many factors that feed into that. And I think you talk through them all beautifully.
Yeah. And it's not uncommon. Shiny object syndrome, we call it. Like,
yeah.
oh, you shiny object.
So that I'm like it even, with clothes shopping, like everything. I'm like, oh yeah, oh, that's nice. I'll have that.
Yeah. And that's the thing, you know, new car, new shoes, new boat, you know, you can go and do that if that's what you want to do. But when it comes to particularly your customer data, I don't think enough companies actually have someone who owns customer data as a responsibility. When you are thinking, and that's going to be the biggest IP in companies tomorrow, you know, customer data, not only the amount, but how accurate it is and how available it is to everybody. And your CRM, marketing, sales automation solutions sit right at the heart of that. So it's not something that should be a quick decision. You really should be thinking about evaluating what's best for your business.
So that's a really, you're leading me back to what I said right at the beginning, is that I've got some questions based on things that we're doing at the moment. So when we're looking at data and getting the right data into the platforms, segmenting it in whichever way we need to segment it, cleansing that data, making sure it's quality data, because I think that is where so many businesses go wrong, especially for the space that I work in, which tends to be, it's all B2B. You know, people have been moving jobs quicker than ever. So the data that we need to talk to, you know, maybe they're on the fastest life cycle that they've ever been on. So making sure that our data is up to date and that we've got the right email addresses and the right contact details for prospects is ever present. So talk me through how businesses as a whole, when they're approaching this, can make sure that their data is cleansed, correct, and that is actually going to serve them in the best way.
Yeah, I mean, this is a challenge that's facing so many businesses. And I can talk you through some of the strategies that different businesses that I know use. And they will be different depending on the size of your business as well. So when you're in the early stages, you might not have the funds to do data enrichment using a third-party tool, because of course that comes with added subscription requirements. So my recommendation is really focusing on creating content and value that makes people want to share their information with you. You know, work with an amazing marketing agency to create content with landing pages, forms that they can fill out, and keep engaging with them and let them know if they change their information to update you. You know, I think some people just forget to send out like a little message to say, if you ever change your information, please fill out this form because you don't want to stop receiving our amazing content. So like little things like that is really helpful. Now, if you're on that next sort of stage in the journey where you're like, you know, we need more granular information. We kind of need to know maybe what software these companies are using, and going for more of an account-based marketing approach. We want to know accurate revenue. First of all, HubSpot provides its own insights on businesses automatically, so you will get some of those. But I have been having feedback from some people that it's not always 100% there. So integrating a solution, say, for example, like Apollo is a great one. So Apollo is a data sourcing system. And actually, if you have HubSpot's Operation Hub, a business like us, what we can do is write custom code to actually push to Apollo to look up email addresses and actually pull them back, all the information you need based on the most recent updates on Apollo. So that's the kind of like enrichment feature that we can build for businesses if they subscribe to something like Apollo. If you're then moving up, you can start having a little bit more sophistication with like Cognism, and Zoom Info is another platform, all offer auto enrichment. Or again, we can talk about how to do selected enrichment in a minute. And then, of course, you've got options by maybe looking at things like LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And we use a combination of LinkedIn Sales Navigator, a tool called Wizzer, and then pull it in through Wizzer into our HubSpot as well. It's a little bit more manual there, but that's great if you don't have the funds again to invest in a big data platform. But just bear in mind with LinkedIn Sales Navigator, one person's going to be responsible for that, unless you want to invest in a team subscription, which again pushes you more into those enterprise subscriptions. So there's not one right answer to that. There's lots of ways of doing this. But before you think about enriching all of your data, think about which data is even worth enriching to start with. Because I'm sure the listeners and maybe even you yourself, Katie, will have tons of contacts that have somehow ended up in your CRM system. Maybe there's some sort of like Gmail or Outlook integration with all of your staff. It started pulling in emails or contact information. You've maybe run some events that like some students have attended. You know, you don't want to be wasting your enrichment credits if you're using a third-party software on students that you might not be in your target market, unless of course you sell to students, then it's different. Or, you know, general fake spam accounts. So before thinking about enrichment, I think we need to start with identifying who to enrich and what data to enrich with them. What data to enrich them with. So, and maybe I can ask you this question, Katie. Have you as a business defined the key attributes or properties or fields that you could use as indicators for whether people are in your target market? Is that something?
Do you mean i.e. their telephone number, their email address, or do you mean their I guess the profile of the audience as a person?
Yeah, so the profile. So we have demographics and we have firmographics. So demographics are like name, date of birth, email, things like that. Then we have demographics that could be indicators, for example, job title. So have you identified the job title? We then have firmographics, which are specifically related to businesses. So if you're doing B2B sales, those would be things like revenue brackets, industry. And my recommendation is always to sit down and identify what are the key demographics and what are the key firmographics that when combined together, we would be able to say this person's worth speaking to.
Yes. So, of course, that is, sorry, we just call it something different. I've never heard it called firmographics. So I like that. But yes, so we have to do that for us and for all of our clients. It's understanding who the audience are, and also not just, often it's not just the buyers, who are the influencing audience. So who do we want to influence, who are going to potentially be part of, a sign off when we get to the point of turning an MQL into an SQL. Mm-hmm. But also, and sorry, for those of you that don't know MQL and SQL, we start to rate prospects based on lead scores, based on engagement factors. They start to score in whichever platform that we're using. They become a marketing qualified lead, and they move through from being a marketing qualified lead, hopefully, to becoming a sales qualified lead, where there's an opportunity and there's a point that their awareness has been heightened. So we have a whole journey that we're mapping our prospects through. But when we're talking specifically about the audience profiles, yes, understanding what the demographic, what the firmographic is in terms of job title, company turnover, sectors, specialisms, services that they offer. Often it's different for every business, but you need to understand not only, I guess the layers that we go into from a marketing perspective and Natalie, I'm sure you'll know about this, go a bit deeper than that, is then what are the challenges that they face? Why are they looking for a new partner for whatever it is that you're trying, or a new product or a new service, whatever it is that you're trying to, sell to this prospect. So yes, super important. And if they're not in your, we're making some changes at Street at the moment in terms of who our audience and the profile of our audience is, which means we hugely need to cleanse our data and prioritize it differently. So I'm super interested in this, Natalie, in terms of how you then start to make sure, especially, if you're a legacy business, we've been doing this for nearly 4 years. How do I start to now segment it and almost like pull it all out to put it back in again? It feels like a big job.
Well, it would be a big job if you have to pull it all out and put it back in again.
Yes.
100% it would be. But if you've invested in a CRM solution that means you can run reports directly on it, you're actually at an advantage to somebody who's starting from spreadsheets. That's for sure when it comes to data hygiene. So what we've done with quite a lot of our clients is we create a low, medium, and high quality data score. So a contact that's of the lowest quality would be somebody who we consider uncontactable, i.e. a name, maybe just a first name, maybe just a last name, maybe some random bits of information about them, but no email and no telephone number. Now, you might sit there and go, why would you have that on your CRM? Like, why would you have that? Trust me, go and look at your CRM right now. Filter by has no email and has no telephone number. If you find 0, please reach out to me and tell me, because I pretty much guarantee that there is no business on the planet that has 0 contacts, unless you're working with us or you have someone in-house managing the data. So first of all, you want to be creating a list with all those contacts that are uncontactable, because then they're not going to be helpful to keep in your CRM, especially if you're charged per contact or you've accidentally set them to marketing contacts on your HubSpot and you're charged for them. You want to be getting rid of those. That's step 1. The next is contactable, but no attributes that suggest they're in our target market. You might have one or the other. You might have a first name, last name, and an email, or first name, last name, and a phone number, but you know nothing else about them. Or you might have that information and have something that is not in your target market. So you can clearly indicate them out, because as soon as you've got an indicator that can indicate them out on the system, you want to put them in a core suppression list. So if, say, for example, someone's ticked they're a student and you don't market to students, you want to create a list that's kind of like a master suppression list, which means you're not including them in sort of your billing contacts. Now, what you're going to want to do is, based on the emails, you'll want to look at enriching those contacts that you don't have that information about until you get enough markers that you can either say these are definitely not in our target market, or these are worth re-enriching again. So if you know what the next most important thing is, now it might be job title, or it might be revenue of associated company. So pick one. You don't need to, all this profiling. Yes, it's great to have all these profiles of your ideal, but you need to start with minimal. If your focus is businesses that are turning over upwards of 20 million, and you've got somebody in your contact base who is associated with a company who is pre-revenue, they're not necessarily the right person to be marketing to at the time. So think about the next marker, and you can make those people, if they have got it, the medium. So let's say you've got the job, you've enriched the job title and you've enriched the company revenue. That's medium. Then when you move on to high, so anyone in medium might be worth enriching. Now high is somebody who you can contact them. They appear to have demographic markers and firmographic markers that are associated with your audience, and you have managed to identify a need for your product. Something that they've either clicked on or viewed, and that's where we have what we call intent. Well, I've named this intentographics, because I'm like, we've got demographics, firmographics, let's have intentographics. So the actual intent behaviors of people. And you can then look in your database, how many high quality people who, yes, they might not be SQLs just yet, because they might not have engaged with enough in a short space of time, or raise their hand to say, I want to speak to sales, but they are clearly in your demographic, firmographic, and they have shown some intent to be worth being scored as you move forwards. So once you've done this, my recommendation would be to create lists to segment these people so you can see who's in low, medium, high. And if you have got some sort of reporting facility like HubSpot, you can actually now build reports filtered by lists. So that's something that they've brought out in the past sort of 6 months, I think. I mean, we're in January 23 at the minute, so depending on when you're listening to this. But yeah, you can also build reports like that. And it's kind of nice when you have a dashboard to show your stakeholders in your business, our CRM has this many low, this many medium, and this many high quality contacts. And then the idea is to get the low down to 0, the medium higher, and the higher even higher. So you can continuously see the health of your data.
I love it. Natalie, honestly, I'm like, I need to put my marketing team in contact with you because this is some of the stuff that we're doing right now and it's so interesting. One thing I just want to map back to, because some of the platforms you mentioned earlier, like Apollo, ZoomInfo, at Cognizant, we use all, if not some of those nowadays. So often I think where you were talking about the different types of data, you're talking about, i.e. if you can't get company turnover, but looking in the same sort of space, I guess, is often quite...
Hang on. Are we able to pause just for a second?
Yeah, no, it's fine. We can pause.
My foot's gone a little bit dead, and I think I just accidentally knocked out my charger, which is why...
Oh, no, that might be the funny noise. I was like, oh, there's a funny noise.
It's because we have a new puppy, and the puppy has messed up the room.
Oh, I love that.
And literally the only background that looks any good is this weird fireplace thing.
Oh, bless you. You sat on the floor.
Yeah.
Oh, Natalie, you're doing so well. I love you. I mean, I feel like we should put this little interlude in. Poor Natalie.
Only because I now have pins and needles down both of my legs.
Oh, darling. Well, don't worry. We won't be too much longer. So honestly,
no, literally.
Don't worry.
It's only because the pins and needles are still in my legs. I think I have.
Yeah, no. Have a walk round. Take a breather. It's fine. I can drink water and occupy myself.
It's just this is too low. Let me get another cushion.
Yeah,
because I wasn't actually kneeling.
I mean, that's a serious yoga pose.
I know, but this is what you do for show business, isn't it? You know?
I love it.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. We're there. Okay, right. I have basically just stacked tons of pillows and duvets up, and now I'm back.
I like it. Guys, I feel like we have to include this little bit. So if there's a way we can make it work, basically, Natalie and I just had to have a little interlude. We do have little interludes on the podcast sometimes. Have a little interlude because poor Natalie has a new puppy and she was sat basically in a yoga pose for all of the podcasts so far, talking so amazingly about everything that is RevOps while sat in a yoga pose, and then her legs went to jelly and she got pins and needles. So yeah, interlude, but we're back to it, and Natalie is comfy now. I
am comfy. So thank you everybody for bearing with me. I appreciate that.
I like it. This is the reality. We're making it real. That's what it's all about. It's more fun, I think. So yeah, here you go, guys. Fun little interlude. Back to business. What I was going to say is one of the really important things is picking those markers that are important to you. But when you're inputting data often from the likes that, for instance, we have used over the years many, but at the moment we use Inflow, we use Alpha Insights, we use Cognizant, and they all have different ways of searching for data. So for us, company turnover, if you can't get company turnover, look at number of staff. If you can't then look into, number of staff, then there's various different things that you can, like you say, I really loved your way of kind of going, if I can't see the turnover, then can I search for, annual billings, or, for instance, one of the platforms that we looks at what they spend on advertising, because we work a lot in the marketing sector. Another one might only give us number of employees, so we can search by number of employees. So setting out those markers, and if you can't get one, you might be able to get one of the others. That's, I think, a really important way to look at it.
And I think the struggle that I see a lot of businesses going through is that they almost have too much data and they're not thinking about what data to actually have. So do you know what? I know you've got these ideal profiles, but think, what is the minimum required? If I had 5 points, what would those 5 points be for us to like enrich. Now, I know more points is better, but let's start with 5. And as you said, Katie, like the alternative for those if you can't get it. And it's about testing different platforms as well. There's some platforms are better for different things. Like, for example, I would highly recommend people look at Wapalizer if you haven't already, which can highlight the technology stacks that businesses are using. So that's a pretty cool one as well. But a lot of these platforms, you have to pay for credits, you have to download the list, then you have to upload the list. And that's the bit that takes the time, let's face it. So what we do is we actually build custom code solutions to actually go and look up to the data platforms and then just automatically enrich the solutions. So you guys can just sit back and just watch things be auto-enriched.
I love that. And that's what I need to talk to you about, because we do, we're constantly, I think in the B2B sector more than any others. And I know a lot of you guys out there are in the B2B sector that, it is harder than ever because people are moving jobs more frequently than ever at the moment. I think something like, for instance, the CMO is a very important demographic for us. And their average tenure at the moment is something like 18 months. It used to be 3 or 4 years. So we really need to be on top of the data. We really need to be cleansing it continually for us, for our clients, because we tend to work a lot with the marketing sector, who are often looking to market to brands. So we really need to understand where people are, when they're moving, how quickly they're moving. And also, the other thing that we do is look at, and I'm not sure if you've been able to do anything clever with this. This is a slightly more challenging one, which is slightly more manual for us at the moment, but the platforms are really good at helping us, is looking at buying intent. So, an obvious one, which I'm assuming is going to be much easier to map into, is when a new person starts a new job, because that's a fresh data set, it's a new email. So the platforms are going to recognize that. But we look at other different buying intents. And again, this, if you're tracking your data and you've got your CRM set up correctly, then this should all help you, because what you can then do is go, okay, we know that we often, work with businesses when they're launching a new product. So I want to speak to businesses when they're launching a new product. So we have got specific insights platforms that enable us to look at when a brand, for instance, is about to launch a new product, or look at certain markers, or look at, for instance, when a business has received a huge amount of seed funding because they're likely to start investing in their marketing. So not just the new data, i.e., new email address has just been entered into Apollo because there's a new person that's come in as a CMO, but also looking at those other trends, which at the moment we have to use insights and data platforms to help us get that data. And then we can do some really interesting comms around that. But is there anything, Natalie, I mean, I'm asking for the world here. Have you seen anything that helps with that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so LinkedIn has just brought its new intent markers out as well, so you can search by some form of intent. I haven't done an evaluation of how good that is. One thing I would say with intent, now it sounds like, Katie, you've done quite a lot of background research to understand what is an intent marker. I think what businesses often don't do is look at their customers, look at how they got there, and then try and look at intent markers internally. So we did this particular study with a new SaaS product, and we looked at grouping all the behaviors of people who became customers to actually say, like, which assets are actually intent. Because, we tend to give intent markers to people who have attended an event or downloaded a white paper, and we can't always guarantee that's a sign of intent. However, in this particular company, what they identified is that businesses who looked at their API docs, their developer docs, were significantly more likely to convert than those who didn't. Now, that was only possible because they collected the views on HubSpot, looked at all the information of the behaviors of the people before they became a customer. So when they were a customer, a couple of years down the line after launching, they were able to look back at that data and go, well, what intentographics do we own? Because I think that's the thing. We're all sitting there in our businesses going, well, based on other people's intent markers, what should we reach out to? Whereas actually we need to change our thinking and be like, what can we create and start tracking so we can then look back at our customers and truly understand which behaviors are intent? Because that's the ultimate. That's the dream. But in terms of other intent platforms, if you are a product business, I know G2, for example, does quite a lot. They now have intent information if you launch your product on there. Of course, Zoom Info has its own version of intent. Again, I'm not sure how great that is. I've heard mixed reviews about that. Yeah, and as you said, Katie, it's usually a combination of multiple platforms. But if any of those multiple platforms that you subscribe to have open APIs, a technical organization like ours can just plug into them and then build that kind of automated enrichment into your CRM.
Yes, and that is what I am going to get you to do for us. Definitely. You're going to save me so much time. There's another
sales call here.
Yeah, I love it. You've just sold me. We don't need to do anything else. But yeah, we also have looked into a couple, well, more than a couple, but the two that we thought were best, that we whittled it down to, were Bowhurst and Honch. And Honch, I think, it probably the better out of the two, just because it has more of those intent markers. So it looks at seed funding, job moves, product launches, various different things. So yeah, I would say Honch is probably the best. There's so many great ones out there. We also, we get so much data from so many different places and reports, and it's hard to keep on top of it. So in any way, if Natalie's magic has taught you anything today, the simpler you can make this to get started, the better. And I promise you guys, it works so hard. Like we do this for clients in varying different sectors nowadays, and we always see the best progress when there's a CRM that's set up, that's working well, when people have got, look, there's so many other things that you need to do right. You've got to be able to email people in the right language at the right time on the right day. There's so many things that go into the kind of marketing side of this to really get it working. But I think the foundations and the more kind of, business focused elements that Natalie's talked through are absolutely the grounding starting point for you developing this. You've then actually got to do it, and you've got to do it well. But there'll be loads of other podcasts about that you can go and dig into. So maybe we'll add some to the show notes that you can go and listen to. But Natalie, thank you so much. Before I let you go and enjoy the rest of your day, and maybe go and do some actual yoga to relieve you from the yoga pressure and pain that you've had from sitting on your knees for this podcast, is there anything else you want to share with is there anything else you want to share with our audience before you leave us?
Yeah, so I think it's worth mentioning, Katie, as well as sort of offering services around sort of data enrichment and building CRMs and things like that, we do also support marketing teams with the marketing operations. One thing I've noticed is we can't always expect marketers to be able to do everything. I think, marketing, it's one of those terms that's massive. You're expected to do the brand, you're expected to do the narrative, you're expected to build the content assets. But in terms of actually just implementing those things on HubSpot, we offer a range of services where we take the hassle away from just those implementy bits. So if, say, for example, they were to work with a lovely agency that did a lot of marketing, they could always work in partnership with us as well, just to do those little bits, those little managements. And we also do quite a lot of stuff around the sales enablement and building out those things on the CRM to better automate them, as well as, of course, the reporting and the integrations. And I think if anybody here is interested in chatting more about this, of course, Katie will catch up again, as we've talked about data enrichment a lot today. But you're welcome to follow me on LinkedIn. I am pretty vocal when it comes to sort of just sharing insights about CRM, data operations, marketing ops, sales ops, and revenue ops best practices. And if you're thinking about integrating, whether that be an ERP tool or your CRM into HubSpot for marketing, or just generally wanting a single source of truth, I'm here to help.
Oh, Natalie, you've been amazing. And again, I will you can find Natalie by searching Natalie Furness on LinkedIn, but we'll also put a link to your LinkedIn in the show notes. So if you want to go and connect with Natalie, you can do. And same with me, I'll put my LinkedIn too, so you can connect with me too. But a big thank you, Natalie. I am going to officially say bye to you for the podcast. But I'm going to steal you because I want to talk to you about how you can help us with some of the stuff that we're doing at Street at the moment. So a big thank you today. You've been amazing.
Well, thank you, Katie, and a big thanks from behalf of RevOps Automated. It's great to be here.
Amazing.
Bye.
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed today's recording. I absolutely love hosting this podcast because not only do I get to meet amazing people, but I learn so much. So I hope I'm asking the questions that matter, that are helping you get your marketing operations sorted, getting your marketing strategies sorted. Please do reach out to me if you have got anything that you want to ask, any challenges within your business that you need help with from a marketing point of view. Please do go and connect with me on LinkedIn. You will find me by searching Katie Street. That's Katie Street. Go and connect with me. Click the little bell, give me a follow. I release loads of content, loads of really cool little snippets from this podcast. Give me a follow, drop me a note, let me know what you want to hear about. Please, please, please also, because we're a new podcast, go and head over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star rating if you loved the content. It really, really helps us. And also make sure on Apple Podcasts you subscribe, or on Spotify you subscribe, so that you get alerts when new episodes are going live. We are going to be releasing an episode every single week. So I want to make sure my guests are amazing. I want to make sure I am giving you the insights and the content that really is going to help enable you deliver better marketing for your business. So yeah, please tap me up, come and say hi. I really am lovely and friendly. I do the same in real life. I am the same in real life as I am on this podcast. I really want to help you all. So tap me up, go and connect with me on LinkedIn, go and connect with my guests on LinkedIn. I'm always going to make sure I pop their links in the show notes. And thank you for listening.